And welcome. We are here for the Redefining Retention for the Modern Workforce workshop. And I'm so happy to have you here with us. It is an honor and a privilege to be on the last day of this epic event that Enrique has brought to this Hacking HR community. And I am just honored to be part of that. We have heard from tremendous thought leaders in this space, a unified community of people trying to create the best HR ever, as Enrique's mission is with Hacking HR. So what I'd like to do with our time today, we have about a half hour together, is I'm going to take you through a little visioning exercise to imagine what the future workplace looks like and to imagine what your organization might look like in the year 2030. And I want you to kind of suspend judgment for a little bit. We're going to tie together some of the concepts that occurred during this week so we can see the common themes and threads. And then I'm going to share with you my version of a redefined definition for retention, what that looks like, and 4 ideas for you to consider on getting your organization there. Ready to go? Here we go. So I'd like you to imagine a world where business looks like this. Our organizations are fluid. They're run by empowered networks of teams. And innovation is a core capability, irrespective of industry, sector, market that you're in. Innovation is a core capability. So if that's what our business world looks like, envision it's the year 2030, and your organization is winning in the marketplace. Your clients love you, and your organization is a talent magnet. How did you get there? So pause for a moment. I'm going to monitor the chat and see if anybody wants to chime in with some ideas. I know we've got people chiming in from South Florida, St. Petersburg, Vancouver. So again, it's the year 2030. Your organization is winning in the marketplace. Your clients love you. And your organization is a talent magnet. How did you get there? What were you doing? You can enter some ideas in the chat. There we go.
Maryanne, remember that there's a delay with the LinkedIn Live, just in case.
Thank you. We've got people joining from San Francisco, and we've got some ideas starting to come in. Agile frameworks across the board. Adaptive and responsive, faster flow of work. We've redefined our HR competencies. We have a purposeful and authentic culture. That's awesome. We're putting employees first and driving innovation. These are all excellent responses. Personalization is another great one, making it feel important to them. Building the brand promise, employee engagement. These are all really great things, and you guys are right on point. And we're going to take a look at some of the common threads that we've heard this week. And a lot of what you're putting in the chat is showing up on things that we heard this week. So what we have heard is bureaucracy continues to be a barrier to organizational change. We know that the global experience of work, I loved that Enrique brought together all the continents. We had major countries participating in a global experience of work. And what we heard was varying degrees of digital maturity. We heard a lot about nomadic talent. We recognize that the employee experience matters and that organizations are still rigid. We also noticed that culture is taking center stage. We have people-centric organizations to refocus on that human element. And we know that it's a technology-enabled world. And a lot of the things you guys mentioned in the chat all speak to these items. So what does that mean for us when we think about retention? When we think about retention in the old model, career model, people stayed at companies for a very long time. They worked for 25 or 30 years and retired. And we know that that is a changing model. And in fact, people are going to work, this new group of entrants to the workforce, are going to work for 30, 40, 50, maybe 60 years of their life. And we know that from a lot of research studies, when you ask people in the mature side of their career if they're ever going to retire, the answer is no. It's likely at some point we'll have centurions in the workplace. So I'd like to offer a redefined view of retention. And what I think it is about building social capital with our talent through exceptional experiences. I think we have to come to terms with the fact that talent is going to move. They're not going to stay with us for 30 years at a clip anymore, nor should they. They're going to have different experiences, work in different companies. And hopefully what we're doing is we're building positive social capital with our talent in a way that even if they leave to have another experience, they actually want to come back. And the research would tell us when they do come back, the boomerangs we call them, they're actually going to stay a lot longer because they liked what you had to offer and they feel comfortable there. So what I'd like to do is take a look at what I'm calling radical reinvention. And I'll go through these 4 points with you about how I think we can create exceptional experiences and build social capital with our talent in order to get them to stay a little bit longer or maybe want to come back after they've had another experience. So in the radical reinvention, I have 4 ideas I want to share with you. The first is we need to shatter the mental models. We heard a lot about broken mental models this week from all aspects. We'll talk a little bit about what does this defining moments mean and how can you do it. And we'll learn how to experiment. We'll take a look at a clip from an MIT Sloan management research report that I love called Coming of Age Digitally, and what we know about digitally mature organizations and experimentation. And then lastly, we're going to talk about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, my signature line. First, we're going to look at shatter mental models. And when we think about some of the presentations we heard this week, Gary Hamel in particular talked about how bureaucracy continues to get in our way. And so I think we need to really take a look at things inside our organization, bureaucratic issues that get in our way, that we need to reinvent our mental models. So first of all, we continue to have org charts that don't really represent how or who gets the work done. And that needs to change. We're working in more and more social environments. We are working in informal networks. Organizational network analysis is a new process that can help us identify who are the connectors, who are the people with the most institutional knowledge, who do people go to figure out problems. So we need to start looking at that. You saw this morning in Enrique's session on design thinking and agile processes on his canvas is clearly a way we can break down the rigid processes and workflows in our companies. Unfortunately, we still have command and control leadership, and we're not pushing decision-making down to the lowest levels. We're not creating autonomy where people can really do their best work. We still have risk averse in our organizations. People are not willing to take that risk. And we still have a lot of competency traps. This is the old, what got you here won't get you there. We get comfortable with our success and we think we can just keep doing what we're doing. So if you're interested, Gary actually shared this on his session, and I'll share it again here. There's an HBR article where you can actually test and see how you're doing on a bureaucratic standpoint. And we have a question. There's a few organizations who do not accept boomerang employees. What's your advice for them? I think you need to help them understand the longevity of the career cycle. And the fact is that people are going to go. And organizations that continue to banish people because they chose to have another experience are going to lose. Talent that comes back to your organization is great for two reasons. One is they like you and they've decided they want to be with you. So their loyalty will be stronger and better, and they're going to give you their all. And secondly, they've really learned and expanded their growth with another organization or wherever else they chose to go. And they're going to bring that back to you and help you be even more successful in your organizations. So let's move on to the second one, which is designing defining moments. And this is what I meant by creating exceptional experiences. Yes, I will put the link to the HBR article in the chat before we're done. So in the defining moments, oh, Stephen Jones, thank you. Microsoft has an alum base for employees. EY is really great at that. They've been doing that for years. And Deloitte has one now called Colleagues Forever, right? And it's a way to stay in touch. So on the defining moments, this is a fabulous book if you haven't read it yet. And I'm a fan of Chip Heath. He's got a lot of great books out there. But the way it's defined is a defining moment is both memorable and meaningful. And they use this acronym EPIC to help us understand how to create these powerful moments. And Elevate is all about moving beyond the everyday, finding an opportunity to highlight something really special. Pride is about celebrating the points of achievement or moments of courage when people do something really strong in the organization. Insight is about bringing together how we see ourselves in the world that we're in and raising ourselves to a new level. And connection is all about that social. And so when you put all these together, you're able to create some really powerful moments that leave a lasting impression on your employees. And I'll give you a quick example. Many of us have had first days on the job. You have new employees coming in, and typically we sit them down in an HR conference room and we give them policies, and they're going to go through your code of conduct and sign off on crazy stuff. And we put them through walking around the building, and they're interrupting people, and it's just not a productive day. And if they're lucky, they may have a computer when they get to their desk. John Deere reinvented their first day to create a really lasting impression. And what they're doing is offering a letter comes from a colleague on your team right after you get your offer letter cleared up and signed off. They give you some insights on where to meet for your first day, where to park. I'll meet you in the lobby. Your first day you arrive, you see a friendly face because you've already met your new teammate. They take you to your space, get you settled in. You log into your computer that's already there and working. And the first email you get is from the CEO, welcoming you to the company, explaining to you what's really great about working for this organization, congratulating you on your decision to join the team. On your desk, you find a nice piece of company paraphernalia that makes you feel welcome to the organization and feel like part of the team. You have lunch with your boss and your new teammates, and they welcome you and they talk to you about what they do and how grateful they are to have you join. And when you walk out at the end of the day, the impact you have is, boy, I made the right decision. This is going to be a great experience. And so they've really reinvented, talk about shattering your mental model of the first day, and applied these powerful moments to create an experience that's going to make people want to stay. So it's just one quick example. There's lots of others in the book. It's highly recommended. And someone did call in the book. There is another book called Moments That Matter. I haven't read that one, but this one I like a lot. And I think there's a lot of HR analogies that you'll find threaded throughout this one. Virtual can make, we saw in the chat, virtual can make it a little more difficult, and yet as easy if you can work your way through some of the rethinking on how you do that. You know, it's funny with the coronavirus going on and so many employees working from home remotely. I don't know if anybody noticed, Zoom stock took a hockey stick approach on their stock price because the remote world is really kicking in because it's necessity. And so I think there's ways we can make that work and find how to create those memorable moments. I have one coaching client who is responsible for Asia Pac, and she's had employees sequestered for 7 weeks. And so they're actually jumping on their their video conferencing tool every morning to do a virtual cup of coffee just so they can see each other because they miss each other. They're not coming into the office every day like they used to. So you can get creative and figure things out. The third radical reinvention is learning to experiment. And this is a clip from that MIT Sloan Management report I mentioned to you. It's a fabulous report. It's a study they do year over year. And what I can tell you, my friends, is the digital maturation is happening in our companies. You'll see that progress in this report. So it's coming. So for those of us who think it's not going to happen to us, it's already coming. But what they cite in this report, and you see this little graphic here, is the digitally mature companies create environments for learning with these 3 items. They learn how to experiment, they create supportive cultures, and they're very transparent. So in digitally mature organizations, leaders create environments or cultures that are flexible and creative. They tolerate risk, they learn from their mistakes. We can be transparent and vulnerable. So when I make a mistake, I don't hide it. I actually talk about what I learned from it and share that. They have distributed workforce and workplace. It's a collaborative environment, and they really adopt a growth mindset. So these things are really starting to happen. And I think it's an important part of creating that stickiness of an environment, a culture where your employees will either want to stay or want to come back to. The last piece I would offer to you is my signature line, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And what we know is happening, and we've heard a lot of talk about this in almost every single session that's happened this week, is the pace of change as we know it today has never been faster. And we know that it's just coming at us rapidly, coming at us in all directions. The technology gets better and better. And what we know is this pace of change has never been this fast. But what we also know is that it will never be this slow again. And that, I'm just going to let you sit with that for a minute, because that's the reality of where we are. The pace of change has never been this fast, and it will never be this slow again. And so your ability to push yourself outside your comfort zone on a daily basis, radically reinvent how you think about retention, how you think about your environments, how you prepare your organizations for this future state, which is actually already here. So I'm going to go to our last slide with our closing thoughts. The future is now. And I really want you to think about what it is that you can do as a result of this week. And things do keep getting faster. What I want you to consider is these 3 points. They're coming up on the slide in just a minute here. I want you to dream big, start small, and iterate along the way. That's how we're going to make progress. And that light that you see there at the end of the tunnel, for those of us who are worried about not me, not yet, not my company. What I really want you to be thoughtful about is that light you see at the end of the tunnel may not be the light of day. It might be the train that's about to hit you. So I want you to really think about what you can take away from this week of learning with Enrique's conference, this epic event where you heard from the most prominent thought leaders in a variety of spaces, and what can you take back that you can start doing in your organizations. So that would be the end of my session. I'm going to go back and see if we have any questions in here that we can address. I will put the link in here. Let's see, we have some comments about remote working. And yes, virtual should have kicked in a long time ago. Let's see. Automation. Hello from Canada. Hello from Ohio. I like this comment. If you keep doing business as usual, it's likely you may not have the usual left, no business. What a great comment from Peter. Thank you. Still working on powerful moments. I would encourage you to think about how you can do that. Company culture matters. Crystal said they've implemented this book for all their clients. Great going, Crystal. Way to go. Let me find the link, and I'm going to put that in the chat.
We can also share that later.
Yeah, because I don't know if I can get to it right at the moment.
No, we can share that. We can share it later.
Yeah, Enrique, do you want to chime in with anything?
Well, no. Oh, sorry. Just thank you, Maryanne, for this amazing conversation. I mean, it's part of what we've been talking about during the conference, and help people wake up to the fact that the world looks very different from what it looked before, and it will look very different, not in 30 years from now, but tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it's sometimes it's really overwhelming to think about all the things that are happening, because we think that the future may happen 10, 15, 20 years from now, but it's in the making right now. I mean,
it is.
The things that will transform the world in the next few years are in the making at this very moment. So we have two choices here. Either we remain a passive sort of bystander in this kind of building up of the new reality of work, or we take an active role in making it happen, right? And I myself prefer to be taking an active role, being a protagonist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the future is now.
I have been out on the road in a number of speaking engagements over the last 2 years. And I can tell you that what I hear responses when we talk about this future of work and the things you've been talking about all week fall into three big buckets. One is not me, not happening, not my company, we're too small, anything on that order. Then there's a middle bucket of people who say, I get it, I hear you, but it's so overwhelming, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And that's what this closing thought is about. You can dream big, but start small and learn how to iterate, because it'll change, it'll evolve. Don't get stuck. Don't worry about being perfect. You say that all the time. Yeah. Just get out there and do something so you can make progress. And then the third bucket is, I hear it, I get it, I have ideas, and I'm hitting walls in my company to try and make it happen.
Yeah.
And we have to learn how to influence. We have to learn how to educate our leaders, bring them along on the journey, show them what's happening. One of the best ways to get their attention is show them what your competitors are doing.
Yeah.
Watch what's happening in the marketplace and just offer it up. Don't tell them what to do. That's where HR gets, into our bad stereotype, but engage them in the conversation. Ask them to have a discussion about what's going on in the marketplace, what's happening with technology, what are our competitors doing? Yeah. And then you might be able to make some progress.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And actually I call that which is the talk that I built for this year in my keynote sessions. It is from macro awareness to micro actions.
There you go.
And all that I'm saying, we are pretty much aligned, with different words. It is understand as much as possible about all things that are happening. I know it can get overwhelming, but that's why I'm putting things like this together, and some other folks are doing it as well. So understand all that is happening, but make sure that you navigate the how overwhelming it could be, and start taking small actions out of those things that you're learning.
That's right.
And because those micro actions, those start small, what you call starting small. Every day taking one micro action or several micro actions every day can turn into something big over time, right? Is the aggregate of those small actions what will make sense and what will keep people and organizations relevant. But to get there to the micro action, we got to start from a point of understanding what's happening. And you said something really interesting, which is, if you go to your company leaders and say like, hey, our competitors are doing this. We got to think about this. I mean, that's alarming, right? For any company.
Sure.
So it's a great starting point to get this conversation rolling.
Yeah. And if we take our conversation we're having and we put it in change leadership terms, which I know a lot of my HR professionals are familiar with, what we're really describing is building critical mass. And we know that once we can build a critical mass for understanding, alignment, and support, that's when action will start to happen, right? And so we can take these little steps along the way to build that critical mass. And at some point, we'll hit the tipping point and we'll be on our way.
Actually, that's why one of the sessions that we had this week was marketing and HR together for the future. Because it is not just as in marketing, as HR becoming a marketer for the organization. It is also as in HR learning how to sell ideas within the organization. And it's exactly what you're saying. You gotta, to make stuff happen, whether even if you are in what we call the table, which you and I both don't like.
No, I want a new one.
Yeah, we want a new one. But even if we were sitting on that table, we still need champions of change in the organization if we want to make some change from the HR perspective. And to do that, we got to become great sellers, right? We got to be great at selling ideas and engaging people and bringing them on board, hearing their ideas and taking those ideas into consideration to turn them into champions of the work that we're doing in HR. Yeah,
that's right. And join with you, not push them into it, right?
Correct.
You don't win that way. We had a couple of questions in the chat about how do you ask great questions. And I think that's a really important point when you're trying to influence. It is about the way you present the information. I always like to say, try and make your idea their idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So if it's their idea, they're going to buy into it. They're going to understand it. They'll support it. But if it feels like you're pushing your idea on them, they're going to resist it. Right. Yeah. So learning how to ask great questions, and there's a ton of books out on the market.
There's a great book, Maryanne. It's Machiavellic, by the way. I gotta say right now, it's a book called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. I read this book probably 15 or 20 years ago.
Awesome.
And one of the laws is do not appeal to people's mercy, appeal to people's selfishness.
There you go.
And what he was saying is in other words, partially what you're saying, which is don't try to have them on the ideas that you have. Make them feel the ownership of those ideas, because they will become powerful champions. Because if they can say, hey, I am partially responsible for this idea.
That's right.
They will feel pretty great. They own it. Yeah. So that's a great way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I would say, the three most important skills I think our HR leaders can have today to make progress like we're talking about. One is coaching. We want our leaders to be vulnerable. You have to help them get there. And coaching is a great skill to have. Consulting skills from an internal perspective, making your idea their idea, helping them talk in terms of trade-offs and tactics and how can you get to the real heart of the business issue. And the third one is you have to be a great change leader. That's what we do. Everything we do in HR is about change. Yeah. You have to be a great change leader. When you do those three things, you'll have a much greater chance of success.
Yeah. It's funny, Maryanne, you mentioned these capabilities that are at the periphery of HR because they didn't belong to the core HR function for a number of years, right? This is new things. And you know, I've been saying recently that to do great HR work, we need to learn non-HR stuff.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it concerns me a little bit that when I go to, you know, job boards, including LinkedIn, I see a lot of companies that continue to post jobs, HR jobs, with the same requirements that we saw, you know, 10 or 15 years ago.
It's
And I am thinking, so so basically you want to go back in time. That's what you're saying. I mean, you're hiring somebody by going back in time and hiring the same level of capabilities that they had 15 years ago. Those skills won't take you further, right?
No.
You need to hire people with new ideas, new things, new capabilities. And this is not enough anymore. So
Yeah.
it's that, yeah.
Spot on, my friend.
Yeah. All right. We should be.
We do have a couple of, if you can post that link, the HBR link.
Yeah, I will share just for everybody who's watching right now, a couple of things.
Great.
One is next week, hopefully next week or the week after, I'm going to be sharing a library of resources by all
Sweet.
speakers, and this link will be included in there. And then the second thing is that we have one more session. So we've had 59 sessions in this week.
God.
The 60th session, which is the last one, is coming up in a couple of hours from now. And I hope it's going to be a different link. So stay tuned to another email from me, and that should be coming up soon.
And then Enrique is going to sleep for a week.
I'm going to sleep for a week.
They're also asking for your book that you mentioned. So if you can give the name of that book one more time, people are asking for that.
The book that I mentioned, if you want to feel a little Machiavellic, I mean, I'm telling you right now, is called The 48 Laws of Power.
Oh, got it. Stephen got it. Thank you, Stephen.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Maryanne.
This has been great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.